In the dim light of a rainy evening, as the city lights blurred through the hospital window, Alex knelt beside the bed, his calloused hands trembling as he clutched the small, fragile fingers of his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Her eyes, once sparkling with the mischief of playground dreams, now fluttered weakly, fighting against the shadows of illness that had crept into their world uninvited. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice a fragile thread, "is the nice lady coming back? The one who made the stars dance for us?" Alex's throat tightened, tears carving paths down his unshaven cheeks. He nodded, choking back a sob, because Emma was here, her presence a beacon in the storm that had nearly drowned him. 6 months earlier, he had been invisible, a single father adrift in a sea of indifference, his pleas for help echoing into silence. But one woman had seen him, truly seen him, and in that gaze, their shattered lives began to mend. If this story tugs at your heartstrings like it did mine, hit that like button right now. It means the world to creators like us who pour our souls into tales of hope. And if you're hungry for more stories that remind you love can rewrite the darkest chapters, subscribe and ring the bell. You won't want to miss the next one. Alex Thompson had once been the kind of man who turned heads. In his early 30s, with a broad smile that crinkled the corners of his hazel eyes and a laugh that could fill a room, he was the guy everyone wanted at barbecues, the one who fixed your leaky faucet without a second thought or spun tales of his adventures backpacking through Europe before life tethered him down. But that was before the accident. Before the screech of tires on a rain-slicked highway stole his wife, Sarah, away in an instant, leaving him with a newborn Lily swaddled in grief's unforgiving arms. 5 years had passed since that night, and the man who once lit up parties now faded into the background of his own existence, a shadow carrying groceries too heavy for one pair of hands, whispering bedtime stories to a daughter who asked every night, "When's Mommy coming home from her long trip?" Their apartment in the bustling heart of Evergreen Heights was a modest 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a brick building that smelled faintly of garlic from Mrs. Ross's Italian dinners downstairs. The walls were thin, the rent was late more often than not, and the elevator had been broken for weeks, forcing Alex to haul Lily's stroller up the stairs after long shifts at the auto shop. He worked 12-hour days, grease under his nails, and exhaustion etched into every line of his face, coming home to microwave dinners and the endless cycle of laundry, baths, and "Just one more story, Daddy." Lily was his son, for foot nothing of curly blonde hair, freckles like scattered constellations, and a giggle that could melt the iciest heart. But even her light dimmed on the hard days, when the other kids at preschool whispered about her, missing Mommy, or when the fever that had lingered for weeks turned her cheeks a feverish red. The community around them? It was a patchwork of well-meaning strangers who had long since stopped asking how they were doing. The neighbors nodded politely in the hallway, but their eyes slid away when Alex's voice cracked over the phone, begging the landlord for an extension on rent. His old buddies from high school, the ones who'd clapped him on the back at Sarah's funeral, now posted vacation photos on social media, their lives a carousel of barbecues and promotions, while Alex's feed was a ghost town of unread messages. "Man up, Alex," one had texted after he confessed he couldn't afford Lily's preschool fees anymore. "Kids are resilient. You'll figure it out." But figuring it out meant skipping his own meals to buy her antibiotics, or smiling through the pain when she asked why no one came to her birthday party except a lopsided cake from the corner store. He felt like a failure, a single thread fraying at the edges, holding together a tapestry that was unraveling faster than he could stitch. It started on a Tuesday, the kind of gray autumn day that presses down on your shoulders like an unwanted hand. Alex had rushed Lily to the free clinic after another sleepless night of her coughing fits, the kind that rattled her tiny frame like a leaf in the wind. The waiting room was a cacophony of sniffling toddlers and weary parents, the air thick with the scent of antiseptic and desperation. He bounced her on his knee, humming an off-key lullaby Sarah used to sing, while the clock ticked mercilessly toward his shift start time. When the nurse finally called their name, Lily's temperature was 102, her lungs wheezing with what the doctor grimly diagnosed as early-stage pneumonia. Nothing fatal, they said, but aggressive antibiotics were needed, and the prescription alone would wipe out his emergency fund, which was little more than pocket change. Back home, with Lily bundled on the couch under a quilt Sarah had sewn by hand, Alex stared at the pharmacy bill on his phone. $187.42. His bank app mocked him with a balance of $23.67. Calls to family yielded voicemails. His parents in Florida, buried in their retirement bliss, too far removed to grasp the immediacy. His sister, juggling her own divorce, promising to Venmo what she could by next week. "Hang in there, bro," she said in her message. But hanging meant watching Lily's chest heave with every breath, her small hand reaching for him in the dark. That night, as rain lashed the windows, Alex did something he hadn't in years. He prayed. Not the polished words of his childhood church, but raw, guttural pleas whispered into the void. "Please, just this once, let someone see us." Emma Harlow had always been the observer, the quiet force in rooms full of noise. At 32, she was a high school English teacher in the same district where she'd grown up, her days a rhythm of lesson plans, dog-eared copies of To Kill a Mockingbird, and the occasional coffee run to the cafe on Elm Street. She lived alone in a cozy bungalow 2 blocks from Alex's building, her life a deliberate tapestry of bookshelves groaning under classics, a garden bursting with wildflowers, and a rescue dog named Jasper who snored at her feet during late-night grading sessions. Emma's own heart bore scars. A fiancé who left her at the altar 5 years prior, citing her endless optimism as too much weight for his wandering soul. Since then, she'd armored herself with independence, volunteering at the local shelter on weekends and mentoring at-risk teens after school. But beneath the poise was a well of empathy, deep and untapped, waiting for the right crack in the world to fill. She first noticed Alex on a whim, or so she told herself. It was that rainy Tuesday, the same one that had Alex unraveling. Emma had ducked into the pharmacy for her monthly migraine meds, shaking droplets from her umbrella, when she saw him at the counter. He was hunched over, wallet in hand, his broad shoulders slumped in defeat as the pharmacist, a stern woman with a name tag reading Gladys, shook her head. "Sir, without insurance, it's full price. Cash or card?" Alex's voice was a low murmur, strained with the weight of unspoken battles. I just need half. For the kid. She's only 6. Gladys's expression didn't soften. "Policy, Mr. Thompson. No exceptions." Emma's cart froze mid-aisle. She watched as Alex's face crumpled, not in tears, but in that quiet devastation of a man who'd fought too many losing battles. Lily's photo peeked from his wallet, a faded Polaroid of her in a sundress, grinning toothlessly at the camera, and something in Emma's chest twisted. She knew that look. She'd seen it in her students' eyes, in her own mirror after the wedding that wasn't. Without thinking, she stepped forward, her voice steady despite the flutter in her throat. "Excuse me, I'll cover it." The words hung in the air, startling even her. Alex turned, his eyes widening in confusion, then wariness. "What?" "No, ma'am, I couldn't." But Emma was already sliding her card across the counter, her smile gentle but firm. "Please, consider it a loan from the universe. Kids don't wait for paychecks." Gladys rang it through with a huff, and as the bag of antibiotics slid across, Alex stood there, rooted, his gratitude a tangled knot he couldn't yet unravel. "Thank you," he managed, voice thick. "I swear, I'll pay you back. Name's Alex. This is, well, it's for my daughter." Emma nodded, scribbling her number on a receipt scrap. "Emma. And no rush." Just get that little one better. She left before the awkwardness could settle, her heart pounding as she stepped into the rain, wondering what impulse had possessed her. But as she walked home, Jasper greeting her with enthusiastic tail wags, she couldn't shake the image of those hazel eyes, haunted, yet holding a spark she recognized as her own buried hope. The next morning, Lily's fever broke like dawn through clouds, her laughter bubbling up as Alex administered the medicine with exaggerated monster voices. "Take that, you germy beast!" he'd growl, and she'd squeal, clapping her hands. For the first time in weeks, Alex felt the knot in his chest loosen, just a fraction. But the bill lingered, a shadow on his nightstand, and with it, Emma's number. He stared at it during his lunch break at the shop, oil-stained fingers hovering over his phone. What do you say to a stranger who hands you a lifeline? "Thank you," felt too small. Finally, he texted, "Alex here. Lily's temp is down. First good night in a month. Oh, you big. Coffee as repayment? My treat, soon as I can swing it." Emma's reply came swift. "Best news I've heard all day. Coffee sounds perfect. How's Saturday? And hey, no treat needed, just your story." Saturday arrived with crisp fall air, leaves crunching underfoot as they met at the cafe on Elm. Alex arrived early, fidgeting with a bouquet of daisies he'd grabbed from the market, Sarah's favorite, a habit he couldn't shake. Emma breezed in, her auburn hair tied in a loose ponytail, wearing a sweater the color of autumn skies. She wasn't what he'd expected, not a saintly savior, but a woman with laugh lines and a penchant for terrible puns, ordering a latte and declaring it her daily dose of chaos. Over steaming mugs, the walls began to crack. Alex spoke haltingly at first, of Sarah's laugh like wind chimes, of the night the police knocked, of holding Lily in the hospital as machines beat their cruel symphony. "I thought I'd drown in it, you know." The quiet after. "Everyone said time heals, but it's like time just fills the holes with more emptiness." Emma listened, not with pity, but with the quiet intensity of someone who'd mapped her own grief. She shared fragments of her story, the white dress boxed away, the fiancé's notes citing irreconcilable dreams, the way she'd rebuilt by teaching kids to find voices in words they'd never known they had. "Grief's a thief," she said softly, stirring her coffee. "Steals the easy parts, leaves you with the raw edges. But those edges? They're where the light gets in." That coffee stretched into 2 hours, then a walk in the park where Lily, bundled in her pink coat, chased squirrels while Alex and Emma trailed behind. Lily took to her immediately, tugging at her hand. "Miss Emma, can you read the duck story? Daddy's voice is all gravelly." Emma knelt, her eyes meeting Alex's over the girl's head, a silent question, answered with a nod. From there, it snowballed gently, like the first flakes of winter. Emma dropped by with homemade soup when Lily's cough lingered, her presence a balm in the cramped apartment. Alex fixed her leaky kitchen faucet one evening, his toolkit spread across her floor as Jasper investigated with wet-nosed curiosity. They talked for hours, about books that saved them, hers, The Alchemist, his, worn sci-fi paperbacks from his dad, dreams deferred, she wanted to write a novel, he, to take Lily to the Grand Canyon, and the ache of holidays alone. But life, that unrelenting storyteller, didn't hand them ease on a platter. Challenges piled like autumn leaves, each one testing the fragile bridge they were building. First came the financial storm. Alex's boss at the shop cut hours after a slow season, the garage echoing with the ghosts of cars that never came. Bills mounted, the electric flickered warnings, the fridge hummed empty. One night, as snow dusted the windows, Alex sat at the kitchen table, head in hands, Lily asleep in the next room. Emma knocked softly, bearing a casserole she'd thrown together. Nothing fancy, just pasta and love. She found him like that, defeated. "I can't even buy her Christmas presents," he admitted, voice breaking. What kind of dad am I? Emma slid into the chair beside him, her hand covering his. The kind who shows up every day, grease and all. That's more than presents. Together, they brainstormed, her connecting him to a temp agency for mechanic gigs, him teaching her to change her own oil, turning vulnerability into partnership. Then came the deeper wounds, the ones that festered in silence. Lily's preschool teacher called one afternoon, her tone laced with concern. She's been withdrawing, Alex. The other kids, they ask about her mom, and she shuts down. Maybe counseling? But counseling cost money they didn't have, and Alex's pride bristled at the idea of charity. That evening, as Lily drew pictures of Mommy in the stars, her crayon strokes heavy and uneven, Alex broke down in the bathroom, the shower masking his sobs. Emma was there the next day, not with solutions, but with presence. She sat on the floor with Lily, weaving stories of star moms who watched over with extra sparkles, her voice weaving magic from pain. Your mommy's up there, picking the brightest ones just for you, she said, and Lily's eyes widened, a tentative smile blooming. For Alex, it was a mirror. Emma didn't fix him. She sat in the mess, her own tears mingling when the grief waves crashed too hard. The community's indifference lingered like a chill, too. At the holiday fair, Alex stood in line for Santa with Lily on his hip, her eyes wide at the lights. Whispers followed. Poor thing, no mom. From a cluster of women sipping mulled wine, their gazes sliding past him like he was furniture. He tensed, old shame rising, but Emma, there on a volunteer shift, caught his eye from across the square. She wove through the crowd, linking her arm with his. Ignore the ghosts, she murmured. We're making our own magic. That night, they strung popcorn garlands in his apartment, Jasper stealing bites, Lily's laughter echoing as Emma taught her to conduct a symphony with wooden spoons on pots. It wasn't grand, but it was theirs, a quiet rebellion against the isolation. Winter deepened, and with it, Lily's cough returned, stubborn as a winter weed. Tests at the clinic revealed complications, an underlying asthma triggered by the pneumonia, inhalers, and specialists now on the horizon. Alex's temp jobs dried up after the holidays, leaving him pacing the apartment, phone silent. Desperation clawed at him. He applied for aid programs, only to hit bureaucratic walls. Single parent, check. Low income, check. But wait times are 6 months. The caseworker droned over the line. In a moment of raw vulnerability, he called Emma at midnight, his voice a whisper. I don't know how to keep fighting. What if I lose her? She was at his door in 10 minutes, coat over pajamas, wrapping him in a hug that smelled of chamomile and home. You won't. We won't. Lean on me, Alex. That's not weakness. That's love. From that night, their bond deepened into something unbreakable. Emma used her teacher's network, rallying colleagues for a fundraiser, a storybook sleepover, at the school, where families donated books and funds for medical costs. Alex hesitated, pride warring with need, but Lily's wheeze in the night decided it. The event was small but mighty. Kids in pajamas reading under fairy lights, parents sharing tales of their own struggles. Alex spoke briefly, his voice steady for the first time in months. I thought we were invisible. But tonight, you all made a scene. The hall covered the inhaler and first specialist visit, but more than money, it shattered the silence. Neighbors who'd nodded past now stopped to chat. Old friends texted apologies, vowing to show up. Spring arrived like a promise kept, cherry blossoms unfurling as Lily's breasts evened out under the doctor's care. Alex landed a full-time gig at a bigger shop, the steady paycheck a rhythm he could finally dance to. And with Emma, what began as gratitude bloomed into quiet dates, picnics in the park, where Lily built sandcastles, and they stole glances over her head, movie nights with popcorn fights and whispered confessions under the blanket fort. Emma's walls crumbled too. She admitted her fear of loving again, of being left with fragments. "You make me want to risk it," she told him one evening, as they swayed to an old radio tune in her kitchen, Jasper circling their feet. Alex pulled her close, his heart full. "Then let's build something whole. Together." The turning point came in summer's heat, Lily's 7th birthday, a milestone marked not by loss, but by life. The backyard, Emma's, with its wildflower garden, transformed into a wonderland, string lights, a bounce house borrowed from a neighbor, and a cake Emma baked from scratch, lopsided but layered with love. Guests arrived in waves, not just Emma's colleagues, but Alex's revived friends, Mrs. Rossi with her famous cannoli, even the pharmacist Gladys, who grumbled but brought balloons. Lily, in a dress embroidered with stars, blew out candles surrounded by cheers, her wish whispered to Alex later. "I want Miss Emma to stay forever." As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of gold, Alex found Emma on the porch, Lily dozing in her lap. "Marry me?" he asked, not with a ring, yet, but with the raw truth of his soul. "Not because you saved us, but because you make every day feel like home." Tears welled in her eyes, her yes a soft exhale against his lips. Yet no story of redemption skips the shadows entirely. Fall brought its trials anew. Emma's school faced budget cuts, her position teetering. Alex's back, strained from years of lifting alone, flared in agony during a long shift. Doubts crept in, whispers of "too soon," "too broken," fueled by a nasty email from Emma's ex, dredging up old wounds. One stormy night, arguments flared. "I don't want to be your charity case forever," Alex shouted, fear masquerading as anger. Emma's retort stung. "And I don't want to be the fixer who can't fix herself." They parted in silence, the apartment echoing with absence, Lily's confusion a knife twist. Days blurred into a cold standoff, until Lily's school project, a family tree drawn with crayons, became the bridge. She presented it tearfully to Emma at pickup. Branches for Daddy, Mommy and the stars, and a new limb for Miss Emma, who grows the flowers. In that classroom, under posters of vowels and verbs, they reconciled, not with grand gestures, but with apologies wrapped in hugs. "We're not perfect," Emma said, "but we're real. And that's enough." By winter's return, their family had woven tighter. A small wedding in the park, Lily as flower girl, Jasper as ring bearer, sealed vows exchanged under a canopy of bare branches. Lily's health stabilized, her laughter a constant now. Asthma managed with routines they tackled as a team. Alex's community shifted. He mentored young mechanics at the shop, sharing stories of resilience over tool benches. Emma's novel took shape, pages filled with characters echoing their journey, grieving hearts finding harbor in unexpected ports. And so, we circle back to that hospital room, not one of loss, but of quiet victory. Lily's illness, that night? A false alarm, a mild flu amplified by old fears, but it had drawn them closer, a reminder of fragility's gift, deeper gratitude. As Alex held Emma's hand, Lily stirring with a sleepy smile, he whispered again, "I never thought I'd find you." But he had, because sometimes the world ignores the quiet cries, but one heart attuned can change everything. In the tapestry of life, we're all threads, fraying, mending, intertwining. Don't wait to be the one who sees. Be the light in someone's shadow today. If this tale of overlooked hearts and unbreakable bonds moved you to tears or sparked a smile, smash that like button. It's the heartbeat that keeps these stories alive. And subscribe for more journeys where ordinary people become extraordinary heroes. Your corner of the world needs that inspiration. What's one act of kindness you've witnessed or given? Share in the comments below. We're all in this story together. Thanks for watching, and remember, no one's invisible when we choose to look. See you next time.